I feel like if there is an opportunity to bring up this book, I will bring up this book without fail. Okay, that's how much I just love and think about this book. Honestly, that is the running theme of this video. Like, why aren't you reading this book? Read this book. Welcome back to my channel. So if you did not know, I have a bookstagram currently overbooked, and recently I asked you guys to send in your favorite book tropes so I could then give you guys book recs based on your favorite tropes. So in this video, I'm not going to go through all the book tropes that were sent to me just because there were a lot, and this video would be like an hour long. However, if you want a part 2, let me know because I might make one. So the first book trope of this video is superheroes. The book I would recommend going along with this trope is The Super Secret Book by Ten Earn, who actually happens to be the sponsor of today's video. So The Super Secret Book is a middle grade superhero novel, and it has over 100 reviews on Goodreads with the average rating of a 4.5. The second book that goes along with this trope is Melanie's Super Secret Dream Date. This is also a middle grade superhero novel. However, this is a short story, so it's less than 50 pages if you want something just super quick and fast. This was written by Ten Earn and Calista Chua, and it takes place in the same universe as the Super Secret Book and features characters from that series. This book was positively reviewed on Goodreads at a 4.5, and Ten Earn was actually nice enough to let you guys read this short story for free if you follow the Super Secret Book on Instagram and DM her Grace Sent Me, and she'll send you a free PDF copy. I'll also have a link to her website in the description if you want to go check it out. Thanks again to Ten for sponsoring today's video. So moving on, the next book trope we have is the one bed trope, and the book I have for this trope is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armez. This is about Catalina Martin and Aaron Blackford. They are actually workplace rivals. They do not get along. However, one day when Catalina was complaining to her best friend about not having a date to her sister's wedding, Aaron actually volunteers to go with her and pretend to be her fake boyfriend. And since Catalina has no other options on her radar, she reluctantly says yes, and they are both headed to Spain for her sister's wedding. However, when they land in Spain, Catalina is very shocked to realize that they indeed have to share a room and there's only one bed. So this book is fake dating, it's forced proximity, there's the one bed trope, obviously, rivals to lovers, and yeah, so The Spanish Love Deception, everyone. So the second book I have is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is actually the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. So you'll have to read the first book to read this book, but it's so worth it, okay? This book is about Ava and Jax. Jax is actually from the Caraval trilogy, so this takes place in the same universe as that series. However, you don't have to read the Caraval trilogy to understand these books, but I highly recommend that you do because I love Stephanie Garber. Anyways, Ava ends up making a deal with Jax, the Prince of Hearts. She is indebted to him, basically. She owes him 3 kisses. And in this book, they get into a lot of hijinks. And let's just say there's a scene where they end up at an inn and there's only one bed. So this is a YA romance fantasy. It's enemies to lovers, and it's just so good. Honestly, this book is one of my 6-star reads. I think about it every single day. A day does not pass where I am not thinking about this book. So let that be a sign to read it. So the next trope we have is Forc Proximity, and the book I'd recommend going along with this trope is The Love Contract by Sophie Lark. This is actually her newest release, and it's her attempt to kind of do a contemporary rom-com romance because Sophie Lark, if you did not know, is primarily a dark romance author. I really liked this book. It's mainly a fake dating trope. The guy blackmails the main girl into being his fake girlfriend because he wants to get close to her boss. However, during their ruse, she ends up moving in with him to maintain like image or something. I don't know. But she moves in with him, and this was honestly my favorite part because the main guy's family has a lot of issues, okay? His dad deals with alcoholism, and his mom died when he was kind of young. He was a teenager when she died. And so she kind of breathes life into his family's home, and it's just so endearing. Highly recommend. I really loved it. The second book I would recommend going along with this trope is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is also her newest release. It's a paranormal romance between a werewolf and a vampire. It's marriage of convenience, and it's forced proximity because she actually moves into his house, and let's just say vampires and werewolves do not get along, so having her in his space is kind of a lot for the main character, Lo. There's also a very big mystery subplot in this, and I really loved this. I've only had 2 5-star reads in 2024 so far, and this was one of them. So the next trope we have is enemies to lovers, which is my favorite trope of all time. The first book I have for this trope is By a Thread by Lucy Score. This is about Dom and Allie. Dom actually gets Allie fired at her job at this pizza place, and his mom, who was also there at the time, goes out to Allie and is like, hey, I own this fashion magazine company. I'm sorry my son is a jerk. Like, you have a job come Monday morning at our company. Like, do not fret, Miss Girl. So come Monday morning, Allie shows up to Dom's workplace and he's like, why are you here? And then he proceeds to try and fire her multiple times. By a Thread is one of the only rom-com contemporary romances that I personally feel like does enemies to lovers justice. I'm a big advocate that contemporary romances can't really have real enemies to lovers. It's more like rivals to lovers or frenemies to lovers, but this is enemies to lovers. Like, they do not get along. This book is also Grumpy X Sunshine, it's workplace romance, and yeah. The next book we have is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is an adult romance fantasy. It's about Araya and Rain. So Araya and Rain both enter this competition that happens like every 200 years, and essentially whoever wins this competition is granted this wish by this goddess that they worship. In lamest terms, it is vampire Hunger Games, okay? Araya is actually human, however, she was raised by the vampire king, Vincent, who's technically her like adoptive dad. And the reason why she enters this competition is because she wants to be made into a vampire like her dad and kind of finally be accepted in this society where humans are seen as this like second grade species. This is enemies to lovers, but it's also reluctant allies because they end up teaming up together. This book is super fast paced, it's addictive. I was talking to my boyfriend about this book every single minute I was reading it, and even he was like, man, I don't read, but I really want to read this book. So if that tells you anything, read this book, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell you. So the next trope is second chance romance, and the first book I have for this trope is Emily Henry's Happy Place. I feel like if there is an opportunity to bring up this book, I will bring up this book without fail. Okay, that's how much I just love and think about this book. And you will be like that too once you read it, okay? This book is about Harriet and Wynne. They dated in college and they share the same friend group. Every year, the friend group goes to this lake house, and it's kind of been a tradition of theirs for a long time. However, Harriet and Wynne actually ended up breaking up, but they just didn't tell their friends because it would kind of ruin the friendship dynamics that their group has. So they go to this vacation claiming that they're still together, and yeah. This book is so much more than a romance book, honestly. It kind of steers more on literary fiction in my personal opinion. The romance is honestly not what comes to mind when I think about this book. This book deals with like friendship, growing up, dealing with new phases of your life, and it's just so beautiful. You will want to underline every single word that Emily writes in this book. The second book I have for this trope is Bloody Heart by Sophie Lark. This is part of the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie, and this is actually a mafia romance. So basically this is about Dante and Simone. We see Dante in the earlier books. He's kind of this like broody older brother, and we know that he had this like very serious girlfriend back in the day. However, they didn't end up working out and they spent basically 10 years apart. However, when Simone is back in town for this like gala novella she has to go to. Dante just like can't stay away. Fate brings them back together and it's just so good. I love the Brutal Birthright series mainly because they're just so fast paced. They're all about like 300, 400 pages, which is like the perfect length when it comes to like romance books for me. I highly recommend that you read this entire series because it's just so good. So the next trope we have is when they write letters slash emails to each other. So the first book I picked out for this trope is obviously Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a YA romance fantasy about Iris and Roman. Iris and Roman actually work at the same newspaper company and they kind of have a workplace rivalry going on. They're both competing for the same job promotion, so they're constantly kind of at each other's throats. However, they are both the owners of these like magical typewriters that they inherited from their grandparents, and they kind of become secret pen pals through these typewriters. So they go to work and they absolutely despise each other, and then every night they're like sending these letters to one another through these magical typewriters, and they're kind of like developing this anonymous friendship in a way, and it's just such a good story. The romance in this book is phenomenal. Like, some of the quotes that Roman tells Iris is just groundbreaking, honestly. I feel like it's a great book to kind of dip your toes into reading fantasy, especially if you are a heavy romance reader, because the romance subplot is very, very prominent in this book. The next book that I have that goes along with this trope is The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. This is actually a novella that they ended up writing for the Not So Meet Cute series that Amazon did. So it's available on Kindle Unlimited and it's also available in the audio format for free. This book is super cute. They started corresponding anonymously on Valentine's Day, and every year it is like a tradition to wish each other Valentine's Day. They only talk through email and they don't share personal information, so it's purely anonymous, and it was just so cute. Because it is a novella, half the book is literally just their emails corresponding to one another, so if you really like this trope, this book is definitely for you. And it's great because it's like less than 100 pages, and it's cute, it's fluffy, and it's fast. So the next trope we have is Single Parent, and the book I chose for this is In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. Technically, I don't know if this would constitute a single parent, but he is the sole guardian of the child, I guess. So this is about Shay and Noah. Shay ends up moving back to her hometown after she inherited this farm, and there are two conditions for her to inherit this farm. She has to live in her hometown for a year, and she has to get married. Noah has been in love with Shay since high school. However, he was just way too shy and awkward to kind of make his move. He is now a successful business owner. He runs his own farm, and he's also the sole guardian to his niece. And when Shay comes back into town, he is quickly enamored by her again, like he was in high school, and he actually offers to fake marry her, essentially, so she's able to inherit the farm. I read this book, I think, during the summer, and I really, really liked it. I think it's perfect for like a spring, summer read. It's fast-paced. It seems chunky, but trust me, it's so cute. It's small town, which is an added bonus. Fake dating, forced proximity. The child in this book is super, super cute. I'm usually not a fan of children in books, but I honestly didn't mind this one. The next book we have is Unravel Me by Becca Mack. This is the third book in the Playing for Keeps series. It's a hockey romance. It's single parent. The main guy character is very much like loves commitment, wants to be a partner, wants to be a father figure for her child, which I just find so endearing. There's also kind of a subplot about finding your own family, creating a family with the people that love and support you rather than who are blood related to you, which I really, really liked. I liked the message that surrounded that, and it was just like overall a cute read. It's also pretty spicy because Becca Mack loves her spice. So the next trope we have is Brother's Best Friend, and speaking of the Playing for Keeps series, we have Play With Me, also by Becca Mack, also from the Playing for Keeps series. This is the second book in the series, and it's about Jenny and Garrett. Garrett is Carter's best friend. Carter is Jenny's brother, aka the brother's best friend trope, obviously why I chose this book. This book is also friends with benefits. They kind of have to sneak around behind Carter's back. It's forbidden love because Carter would literally lose his head if he knew about Garrett and Jenny, and Jenny kind of deals deals with a lot of self-esteem issues and she has trouble making friends because of how famous her brother is. She's constantly kind of living in his shadow and she doesn't know if people really like her or they just want to get closer to Carter. Like, it is a fine line. So her and Garrett actually kind of become friends in their own way, like while they're hooking up. And I just really liked this book. I thought it was super cute and endearing. Honestly, I really liked Jenny's character. I liked the character development that she had throughout this book. And if you like Brother's Best Friend, this book right here. It's also a hockey romance, so that's just an added bonus, I guess. The next book we have is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This is a cowboy romance. It's small town, brother's best friend, for obvious reasons. And the main girl is a horse racer, but she has a traumatic experience and that kind of puts a lull in her career. She doesn't know if she'll be able to race again. So she's back in her hometown hoping to kind of take a break from everything. And by being in her hometown again after years of kind of avoiding it, she realizes that her brother's best friend, who she really did not get along with, has really changed. Like, he's no longer that irresponsible, chaotic person. And this kind of helps her to realize that maybe being back in her hometown really isn't that bad because he's there. I actually listened to this book on audio. I really liked it. I think I rated it a 3. It wasn't anything to write home about. However, if you like small town, you like cowboy romances, and you like Brother's Best Friend, it's the book for you. So the next trope is friends to lovers. If you are new to my channel, you may not know, but friends to lovers is kind of my least favorite trope. I am not really a fan of it. However, these two books did the trope justice in my eyes, okay? These are the few exceptions of my hatred towards that trope, okay? So the first book I have is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I'm not going to go into much detail about this book just because I am a firm believer that you should go into this book blind. This book is an emotional roller coaster. It honestly is such a vibe. It is very much Wattpad, which in my eyes is not a bad thing. I was thoroughly entertained while reading this. I cried a lot, and I really think that the friendship in this book is so beautiful. The main girl, Ariana, is in love with her twin brother's best friend, Chase. Basically, the summer before they head off to college, something changes between her and Chase. However, by the time Ariana starts her first semester at college, she is just dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil. She's depressed, she doesn't want to go to class, and she's just really struggling internally. This book is also a football romance. It's a college romance, friends to lovers, very fast-paced, addictive. I feel like this book had a chokehold on most of the book community for a hot minute, and then now I see nothing about it, so I'm bringing it back into the mix. Like, why aren't we talking about this again? We should start talking about it again, please. Honestly, I annotated this book and I really want to go back and reread it because that's how much I really enjoyed this book. Like, it is just so good. Yeah. Read this book. Why aren't you reading this book? Honestly, that is the running theme of this video. Like, why aren't you reading this book? Read this book. So the next book we have is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is about Archer and Bree. Archer's parents died when he was very young, and so he was sent to live with his uncle when he was like a small child, and his uncle was kind of odd. He lived very off the grid, and because of that, Archer was isolated throughout his childhood, and that kind of became a running theme in his adulthood as well. Archer lives in the country, he's very self-sufficient, he only goes into town when he needs to. However, when Bree moves to town, she kind of develops a soft spot for Archer. She doesn't really understand why the town treats him so unfairly and kind of treats him like he's an oddity in a way. So they kind of develop a friendship of sorts, and this book is just so heartwarming and endearing. Like, why is me talking about this book like making me want to reread it now? But yeah, this book is small town, it's friends to lovers, it's such a heartwarming and emotional story. So the next trope in this video is a billionaire romance. So obviously, I have to talk about the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is an interconnected standalone series by Lauren Asher, and essentially the Kane brothers, their family owns Disneyland and their grandfather passes away, and basically to inherit their percentage of the company they have to complete their own like special task. So in the first book, Rowan has to become like a roller coaster designer, and this is Grumpy Egg Sunshine, Billionaire Romance, obviously. Super cute. So the next book in the series is Terms and Condition. This is about Declan, the oldest brother, and his task is that he has to marry somebody, and he ends up developing like a marriage of convenience with his assistant because that's how dedicated she is to her job. Again, Grumpy X Sunshine, Forc Proximity because they live together, marriage of convenience, Billionaire Romance. And then the final book in the series is Final Offer. This is about Cal and Elena. It is childhood friends to lovers, second chance, billionaire romance. Essentially, he has to go and sell the house that his grandfather owned, and it kind of forces Cal to become very aware of the issues that he is facing. This was definitely my favorite of the series because throughout the 2 other books, we kind of see Cal be this like funny, go-lucky, very aloof kind of a character. However, in this book, we really see what he is dealing on the inside and what he is facing and how he deals with a lot of anxiety and depression and stuff. And then if you're looking for a non-Lauren Asher billionaire romance, I highly recommend Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. He literally bought the company that she works at because she wasn't returning his phone calls. Like, if that doesn't scream billionaire romance, I don't know what does, okay? Black Ties and White Lies is also a fake dating trope. It's ex's brother. It's very much mastermind coded by Taylor Swift. It's free on Kindle Unlimited, and I think it's under like 400 pages, so you have zero excuse to not read it. So I think I'm gonna end the video here just because that was our 10th trope. However, if you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you want a part 2. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even get to do all the tropes that you guys left me because that would have just been way too long of a video. But let me know if you want a part 2 because I will definitely do that for you guys. And make sure to subscribe for more videos. I have a lot of fun things planned, so subscribe so you don't miss out. I also have a bookstagram, currently .overbooked. I mentioned it earlier, but I post daily. I post reels, book updates, reviews, anything book related, I post on there. So go follow me if you want more content from me. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.